Starseed, pause for a moment and feel what is about to be said, because this is not motivation, it is not financial advice, and it is not a generic self-help speech. We, the Arcturian Council of Vibrational Observation, are monitoring a recurring pattern in millions of stellar incarnations on Earth at this very moment. The feeling of working, striving, dedicating oneself, and yet seeing money slip through one's fingers like water that never fills a glass. If you have come this far, it was not by chance. We detected a very specific signal in your frequency, a signal that the human mind usually interprets as bad luck, misfortune, lack of discipline, or incompetence, when in fact it is something else, much older and much more precise, a frequency block. You do not have a money problem, you have a tuning problem, and before this transmission ends, you will understand exactly where this block is located in your body, where it came from, and what to do with it now. Let us be direct, because clarity is the only form of respect we offer. When we speak of scarcity, most humans immediately think of numbers, low salary, red account, maxed out card. But numbers are merely the final symptom of a process that begins much earlier, on a layer that the eyes cannot reach. Money, from an energetic point of view, is a form of condensed light, a current of exchange that circulates among beings just as blood circulates within a body. When this current does not flow, the problem is rarely at the source, the problem is in the plumbing. And the plumbing, in the case of an incarnated human being, is your energetic field, your frequency emitted at every instant, silently and automatically, to the entire universe. If this field is compressed, contracted, overly protected, abundance may be circulating around you in whole waves, and still will not find an open door to enter. It will knock, try, insist, and finally divert to another channel that is more available to receive it. This is what we feel when we say, you are not lacking money, you have a frequency block. Observe your own symptoms for a moment without judgment, just as a reader would observe a map. You work, you dedicate yourself, you deliver more than is asked, and yet the balance never grows at the speed it should. A good, promising opportunity arises, and before it consolidates, it disappears, changes course, dissolves in your hands like smoke. A debt is paid off with immense effort, and a few months later, another appears in its place, as if there were an invisible magnet always attracting the same type of financial squeeze. You get close to a leap, a turning point, a breath of fresh air, and something interrupts the movement before it becomes sustainable. This is not coincidence repeated by chance. This is a pattern, and every pattern that repeats with such exactness has an origin, a programming, a code running in the background silently, long before you are aware of it. We call this energetic programming prior to your current consciousness, because it was not born with you in this life, it was merely inherited and reactivated by it. This is where most people miss the mark. They try to correct the scarcity pattern by attacking only the surface, another finance course, another spreadsheet, another attempt at rigid discipline over their own spending. And there is nothing wrong with financial organization. It has its value in the material world. But if the frequency behind the action continues to be one of contraction, of fear, of distrust in one's own worthiness, the practical result will always be the same cycle, merely disguised as a new attempt. It is like trying to fix a leaky pipe by only changing the color of the wall paint. The crack remains there, hidden, waiting for the next visible manifestation. Now, Starseed, pay attention to this part, because it will touch on something deeper than you probably expected to feel today. This pattern of scarcity was not born with you. It was passed down. Every human family carries, within its bloodline, a living memory of survival. Hunger experienced in past generations, wars, losses, times when having resources was literally the difference between living and dying. This memory doesn't just disappear because time has passed. It remains imprinted on the body, in the way the nervous system reacts to the idea of having more, of expanding, of taking up more space in the world. An ancestor who lost everything in a crisis, who went hungry, who was humiliated for lacking resources, who lived under the constant fear of scarcity, left behind an imprinted protection code. This code says, in essence, don't stand out, Don't hoard, don't trust in abundance, because abundance in the past was followed by loss and suffering. This code doesn't ask if you agree with it. It simply runs in the background every time a real opportunity for expansion appears in your life. This is why so many starseeds feel a strange discomfort precisely when things start to go well. A subtle, almost imperceptible unease that appears right at the moment money starts coming in, recognition starts arriving, life starts opening up. This is not conscious sabotage. This is the body reacting to an ancestral memory that growing too much in the past brought danger. Your nervous system, trained by generations of survival, still associates abundance with exposure, and exposure with risk. That's why it pulls the brake exactly when you most need to accelerate. Let's now go to the exact center where this block settles physically, because it's not just an abstract idea, it has an address in the body. The main point is located just above the navel, in the region that energetic tradition calls the solar plexus. This is the center of personal power, of the ability to act in the world, to sustain resources, to maintain material stability over time. When the solar plexus is open and balanced, the person can receive, sustain, and expand prosperity naturally, without guilt, without fear, without sabotage. When this center is compressed, contracted by layers of old protection, the person can desire abundance with all the strength of their conscious mind, repeat positive affirmations, visualize wealth every day, and still emit, silently, a frequency of scarcity, because the body is protecting a wound much older than the current desire. Think of it like two radio signals playing at the same time on different frequencies, one coming from your mind, saying "I want prosperity," and another coming from your solar plexus, shaped by generations of survival, saying it's dangerous to have too much. The universe, which responds to frequency and not verbal intention, will always pick up the strongest, most constant, most deeply rooted signal in the body. And in most cases, this strongest signal is the old one, because it has been imprinted for a much longer time, reinforced by many more repetitions, sustained by much more accumulated emotion than any recent consciously made affirmation. The time has come to do more than just understand this intellectually. We will now conduct a brief direct practice of recognition and release to begin dissolving this old survival contract. You don't need any complicated ritual, no special objects, just presence and willingness to feel your own body for a few moments. Sit comfortably or remain exactly where you are now. Bring your attention to the region just above your navel, your solar plexus. Breathe deeply, slowly, filling your abdomen before your chest, and exhale even more slowly than you inhaled. Do this 3 times without rush, allowing your body to relax a little more with each exhale. While breathe, just observe if there is any sensation in this area, a tightness, a warmth, a void, a weight. Do not try to change anything yet, just acknowledge what is there. This sensation may be the physical mark of the heritage we are describing. Now, mentally or in a low voice, repeat the following intention, allowing it to resonate beyond the words. I acknowledge the weight of survival that I have carried for generations before me. This weight had a function in the past. It protected those who came before me in difficult times. I honor this effort, and now I choose, with full sovereignty, to release this contract of scarcity from my present field. It has served its purpose. It does not need to continue defining me. As this intention is declared, imagine, if you can visualize, a soft light moving through the solar plexus region, like a calm tide coming and going, taking with it layers of accumulated tension. You don't need to feel anything dramatic right now. Often, true release is silent, almost imperceptible at the moment it happens, and only reveals itself later through subtle changes in behavior, in breathing, in how you react to situations that previously generated financial anxiety. Breathe once more deeply, and let your shoulders relax, let your jaw relax, let any unnecessary tension dissolve with the exhaled air. What we are doing here is not erasing your family history, but rather recognizing that ancestral fears had a legitimate protective function in the past, in contexts of real risk, but they do not need to continue commanding the decisions of your present life. In a completely different context, your ancestors survived by using fear as a tool. You can expand by using another tool, more aligned with this moment. Recalibrated trust, sustained by a more open and less protected solar plexus. There is still a layer to this issue that most people never connect, and that needs to be said with total clarity. The same block that prevents money from flowing is often the same block that prevents love from flowing. This may seem at first glance two completely separate subjects, but at their energetic origin they share the same root. Both money and love are forms of receiving. Both require the person to open up, expose themselves, allow something external to enter their field and remain there, sustained over time. If the ancestral protection system learned that receiving too much, trusting too much, opening up too much brought pain in the past, this system will not discriminate between money and love. It will simply block receiving in general, in all areas where the vulnerability of accepting something good is necessary. This is why many starseeds who struggle financially also report difficulty in accepting help from others, difficulty in receiving compliments without downplaying them, difficulty in allowing true intimacy in relationships, difficulty in simply resting and enjoying pleasure without feeling they need to justify or earn that moment through extra effort, refusing an offered help from the heart, distrusting a sincere compliment, sabotaging a relationship exactly when it starts to become too secure, postponing rest and pleasure until everything is perfectly resolved, are all different expressions of the same central protective pattern. The difficulty of embracing what is good, for fear that just as it happened before in the lineage, this well-being will be followed by loss. Recognizing this connection is liberating, because it means you don't need to solve 10 separate problems with 10 different strategies. There is a single root, and working this root, as we are doing now through the solar plexus, has the potential to simultaneously unlock your relationship with money, with love, with help, with rest, and with pleasure. Because all these flows pass through the same internal reception door. Now that the activation has begun, there is something important we need to convey about the period that follows this moment. The next 72 hours function as an integration window. Just as a physical body needs time to absorb a medicine or recover from intense exertion, your energetic field needs time to reorganize the new frequency that has begun to settle in now. During this period, prioritize rest whenever possible, even if your routine does not allow for long breaks. Short moments of silence, a few minutes without screens, a few minutes just breathing, already make a significant difference in consolidating this change. Drink more water than usual these days. Water has a direct relationship with the body's ability to process and eliminate old energies that are being released, and insufficient hydration can make this process slower or more uncomfortable than it needs to be. Also, pay extra close attention to your dreams in the coming nights. It is common during a process of ancestral release for old memories, symbolic scenes, or even faces of relatives you have never met to appear during sleep, as part of the processing of this heritage being reorganized. It is not necessary to interpret every detail, just observe with curiosity, without fear. Old emotions can also emerge unexpectedly during this period. Sadness for no apparent reason, old anger returning to the surface, a sudden relief that brings tears for no clear reason. All of this can be a legitimate part of the process of letting go of a burden that was not originally yours, but which was carried for so long that it came to feel like part of your identity. Embrace these emotions without being scared by them. They do not indicate that something has gone wrong. They indicate that something is finally moving, after being stagnant for generations. It is also during this 72-hour window that many people begin to notice small synchronicities, an unexpected message, an opportunity that arises with apparent effortlessness, a conversation that opens a door that seemed closed for a long time. Pay attention to these signs, because they are usually the first indications that the frequency emitted by your field has already begun to change, even if subtly, even if the concrete financial result has not yet fully manifested. The change in frequency always precedes the change in circumstance, never the other way around. Before we conclude this transmission, there is something that needs to be absolutely clear to you, Starseed, because this clarity is the true turning point of everything that has been said so far. You were never broken. You were never incapable, lazy, or incompetent with money. What you carried all this time was not a flaw of yours, it was a borrowed burden, a survival inheritance that passed from generation to generation until it reached you, in the silent hope that someone, finally, would have enough awareness to recognize it and end it. That person is you here now at this exact moment when you decided to pay attention to this transmission until the end. Ending an ancestral pattern is not a small act. It is an act that reorganizes not only your life, but the energy of an entire lineage that passes through you. Every time you choose to breathe instead of reacting with fear in the face of an opportunity for growth, every time you allow yourself to receive something good without sabotaging it, every time you recognize the old weight instead of automatically repeating it, you are, in practice, closing a cycle that may have been open for centuries within your family. This does not mean that everything will be resolved instantly and definitively from today onwards. Frequency recalibration is a process, not a single event, and the next layer of this journey involves something we have already briefly mentioned here. The way this same blockage affects your ability to receive love, intimacy, and true connection, in exactly the same way that it affects your ability to receive material prosperity. We of the Arcturian Council of Vibrational Observation continue to monitor your field, and a forthcoming transmission is being prepared specifically to jointly dissolve the blockages of love, intimacy, and prosperity that still remain intertwined in your current frequency. Remain attentive to the signs that will come, because this next step is the direct continuation of what has begun to move within you now. Until then, breathe, rest, observe your dreams, drink water, and allow the new identity that is being born, lighter, more open, more sovereign, to finally occupy the space that has always been yours by right.